So it's the end of the year. How's it been for you so far? If you're like most people, you're probably starting to think about the next year, what you want to do, whether it's vacations or what your work schedule looks like and big projects. And hopefully, it wasn't so bad that you actually don't want to think about it. But you know what? Today I'm going to be talking about goal setting. I think it's a little bit different than most how people look at it. And I think it'll be really helpful in terms of helping you get more clarity, but also more motivated for the new year. Are you ready? Let's go. So the first thing you want to do, instead of looking to the future, you actually want to take a look at the past. What I mean by that is, we're talking about goal setting, and we're at the end of the year right now. So take a look at the last year. How was it? How did it go? What could have been better? And the most important part is, what were your learnings from this? Now, if you're starting and the goal setting is you're kind of in the middle of things, or maybe you're not doing this at the end of the year, that's fine. You don't have to look at a full year, but at the very least, take a look at the last 3 months and just really reflect on that time. Now, after you've looked at the past, it's time to take a look at the present. So where are you right now in life? And for me as a life coach, I do like to look at every single aspect of life rather than just one area. And what I use for that is called the Wheel of Life. I have another video as well as a PDF with instructions on how to run the Wheel of Life, so I won't do it here, but I did want to introduce the idea so you at least know what to expect from it. So the Wheel of Life breaks up life into 10 different domains, right? And by domains, I mean, it looks at your romantic life, right? How is your relationship with your partner? Or it could look at your social life, right? How are you spending your time? Do you like the friends you're with? Your physical environment? Do you like the house you live in, right? All the things around you. Does it make you feel comfortable? Or even just physically, how do you feel? Are you happy with the amount of energy and life and excitement that you have in day-to-day life? And what you do is you rate it, each of these sections, from 1 to 10, 1 being not very good at all, and 10 being it couldn't be any better. And then what you create there is this image of this wheel that is kind of moving along, right? Because we kind of do all aspects of life on a daily basis. And as you see how you rate things, it kind of shows you how bumpy life is or how smooth life is. And so once you've looked at the past to kind of see what got you here, that gives you some real clarity on how you want to move forward. So we've looked at the past and figured what got us to today, and then we evaluated where we are today. Now we're finally ready to actually look into the future, which is where goal setting comes in. Now, before we jump into it, I actually want to focus on why I think goal setting goes wrong, and this is something I don't hear us talking very much about, if at all. So I have 3 one-word sentences for you to really keep in mind when it comes to the goal setting and how to avoid having issues in the future. And it's simply be, do, have. And simply what it means is, if you can be the person, then that person will do the things, and by doing the things, you'll have the results. So when you look at someone who's really fit, they don't necessarily focus on the doing, the workout, because they're like, man, I'm just someone who loves the gym. I love the people at the gym, right? You hear people who run. I'm totally not a runner. Part of me, especially long distance running, I think those people are crazy, right? But they say, oh, I'm a runner. I'm a runner is a being statement, right? Or it's a belief, right? If you're a runner, what do runners do? Runners run. And what's the result of running? They're probably thin. They call themselves a gym person, like a gym rat or a junkie or whatever it is. That's a B statement. Well, what do those gym people do? Well, they work out at the gym. And if they work out at the gym, what happens? They're probably pretty fit and strong. And so the issue I see with goal setting is we focus on the doing, but we don't necessarily look at the being, right? So I've had instances where I focus on, I just have to do this a certain number of times, right? And going back to the health examples, I need to exercise a certain number of days a week, or a certain amount of time, or maybe when it comes to eating, I need to have a certain number of meals in the day, or I can't eat a certain number of calories. And that part is fine in and of itself, but if the being doesn't match up with it, right? If in the being you're like, oh my goodness, but I just love my carbs, or I love my breads, my pastas, I love desserts so much, and your goal is to do the keto diet, what are the chances that you're going to be successful and have the results? Pretty low, right? So if the being and the doing don't match up, you're not likely to have the results. And this is why I believe a lot of diets don't work, because it's essentially a crash diet. You just starve yourself in some form, And the whole time you're thinking, it's like, man, I just can't wait to lose the weight, but I actually haven't changed as a person from an identity perspective. And so once you shift the identity, then the doing naturally shifts, and then the having will show up as well. So here's my version of it and where it really clicked in for me. So growing up, I did martial arts. I was a sprinter in high school, so not long distance, but you know, I can run for 10 seconds. I just can't run for more than that. And then also I picked up playing tennis in college. So I was pretty active, running around, doing a lot of things, you know, pretty dynamic stuff. And so I always stayed pretty thin, right? I was relatively in shape. And then once I graduated college, became an adult, had a job and things like that, what we tend to do is put on weight because we're not as active anymore, right? And we're busy with work, we're sitting a lot, we're driving a lot more. And I was like, man, I don't like my body right now. I also started having low back issues. I'm like, I need to get in shape. So I went back to what I knew at the time, which was let's do push-ups, let's do sit-ups, right? Let's do this. And that's when I tried out even going to the gym, like lifting weights and things like that. Physically, my body changed because I did the work, but it didn't last more than like maybe a month or two. And so finally I was like, all right, I don't think I can figure this out for myself. So I got a trainer. What gave me the pressure to find the trainer was actually my wife was pregnant. We were expecting our son. And I'm like, all right, I definitely know I need energy and I need to be as healthy as possible because I wasn't gonna be getting more sleep. I probably wasn't gonna be eating healthier, right? And so I was trying to prepare for that. When talking to my trainer, he asked me this really powerful question, which was, how do you wanna feel? Don't worry about the exercise and what you'll look like and things like that, but at the end of the day, how do you wanna feel? So I started thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna have a baby who's gonna be crawling, so can I crawl with him? I wanna be mobile. I wanna have the mobility to actually stand up and get onto the ground and crawl with him. Now babies, because once they start crawling, they don't necessarily know where they're going. You might end up in odd corners or under things or whatnot. And so I knew I probably needed to be kind of flexible. Great, I gotta be mobile, gotta be flexible. And then I started imagining him walking and then running. I imagined him running out into the street somewhere and freaking out about that. If you're a parent, I think you know what I'm talking about. You start having these crazy fear-driven thoughts around your child. And so I'm like, all right, if he's gonna run off, I need to make sure I'm faster than him. So I need agility and speed. So that meant how I wanted to feel was mobile, agile, and flexible and fast compared to a toddler, right? Not compared to an Olympic athlete or even to who I was when I was younger. And once I made that connection, exercising suddenly made a lot more sense. I adjusted a lot of thoughts on what working out should be and what I was trying to get out of it. See, prior to having this aha for me, I was like, oh, well, I want the six-pack abs, I want to get thin, I want to get ripped. But that doesn't really fit with who I am as a working adult. But as a father who was present and able to play with his child, that made a lot more sense. And so what did I need to do? It actually was less about the intensity of the workout, but was I hydrating enough? Was I eating clean enough, right? Not totally clean, but clean enough. Was I getting enough rest? That would solve a lot of issues. And then in terms of the flexibility and mobility, a lot of that can be addressed just through walking. So back then I started walking regularly. And I was so out of shape, and I was like 15 minutes, I'm like, I'm done. Right? Not that I was out of breath, but like my body, the stamina-wise, I was a little tired. And then so I built up stamina and mobility and agility, all that stuff just through walking. And I was walking in circles around the block and things like that. And so this is why I talk about the be, do, have. When I was focused on the doing, it was really focused on the exercise and the intensity of it. But the being was someone, again, who's not really a gym person, who's not really a workout person. But once I connected the being a good father, a present father, a father who can hang with his baby and toddler, it changed my doing and I became healthier so that now I can actually be present with my son. Okay, so be, do, have. Hopefully that flow now makes sense. And so what I want to present to you now is troubleshooting. Do I change the doing or do I change the being, right? Or if you start doing things and it's not quite working out, what variables are at play for each of those things? Now, since we talk about doing a lot, I want to start there. And when it comes to the doing, it breaks up into 3 different sections for me. You have mindset, you have skill set, and you have tool set. So mindset, just like it sounds, is what are you thinking in your mind that influences how you do something. And the thing that I've been thinking a lot about recently has been hard work, right? Do I work hard, right? I want to be a hard worker, but if I think something's going to be hard work, how do you think I'm going to feel about it, and how likely do you think I'm going to want to do it? So if the task at hand is hard work, I'm like, man, like I don't know if I want to do this. So watch the thoughts that you put into the thing that you have to do. The next one is skill set. Do you actually have the skills to do the thing that you're trying to do? Now, if it's new, like brand new to you, you probably don't. And that's gonna be important to know. You can adjust your expectations. So if you've never played tennis before, you're like, oh, I wanna pick up tennis, it's good cardio, right? All of these things, but you've never played before, right? You gotta figure out how to use your body, how to rotate, how to get all the coordination down. Like that's a skill set. Or maybe it's a work thing, and you're stepping into a leadership position from a promotion. Okay, well, do you have leadership skills? Do you have the communication skills to be a leader? Do you have the emotional intelligence and awareness that a leader needs? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I honestly don't know, but that's another thing for you to think through for yourself. Right? And then the third one is tool set. Do you have the tools to do the thing you need to do? Going back to the tennis example, if you don't have a tennis racket, it's kind of hard to play tennis, right? Now you could get by with like a squash or racquetball or whatever it is. Like there's different shapes you could use, right? But if you're going out there with like a baseball bat, you're probably not gonna be very successful. From like a work example, do you have the organization tools, right? Maybe you have the organization skills, but do you have the tools for it? And so in the coaching world, like we use Calendly a lot to make schedules. It's like, hey, you wanna book a call? You know, here's my link, you know, schedule it from there. And so when it comes to mindset, skill set, tool set, again, all three have to be in place for you to really be successful. You could probably scrape by if things weren't optimal, but if one of them is missing, it basically doesn't work. And so now I want to talk about being, right? We just talked about doing and the troubleshooting, but now I want to talk about the being and how to troubleshoot that. So if you know that you're not carrying an identity or a belief that will allow you to do the things with some ease, I won't say it makes it easy, but it makes it easier when you have the right beliefs in place. How do you go about changing that? And so to me, there's really two options. It's an inside out process or it's an outside in process. And so what I mean by that is the inside out is actually identifying what your belief is and then changing your belief and actually integrating it and really believing what that belief is so that you'll actually start to do the things. And so for me, in my example, I was shifting from someone who works out to being a present father. That was an identity shift for me that allowed me to work out. Now I come across a lot of people who are maybe older, they're not even necessarily old, but they're like, oh, you can't teach a dog new tricks, right? Or it's like, oh, I've never been good with tech, I'm not good with social media. And these are business people who need to be on social media to help build their business. That statement of I'm not good at, right? Anytime you hear an I am, that becomes a belief statement. And so you really need to watch what you're saying. So maybe you're not trying to turn the I'm not good at social media to I'm amazing at social media. Maybe you just change it to I'm someone who's open to learning about tech. I'm open to trying, I'm open to making mistakes. I'm open to possibly looking dumb, right? So for anyone who didn't grow up with this tech and you went through that transition, you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? So that's an inside out process. The other option is to do outside in, right? And outside in just means you do force yourself to do the thing until you become the person who does the thing. If you do something long enough, people see it and they're just like, oh, that's the guy who does the thing. And if you think about it, that's basically how every kid develops, right? Because when you're a child, you don't really have an identity per se, and you just kind of do the thing. So for me, I do consider myself a tennis player. But when I first picked up a racket, I was a guy who played tennis. But because I kept playing and I kept playing and I was hitting with friends and I eventually joined teams and playing matches and things like that, at some point I became a tennis player through sheer repetition. Now the thing that you have to decide for yourself is, are you an inside out person or are you an outside in person? And then that will help you determine how to go about changing that. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you got a lot out of it. Let me know in the comments below what your biggest takeaway was. And also if you want to hear more stuff like this, click subscribe as well. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.